I'm Pallavi Dean. I am the founder and creative director of Roar. It's a design consultancy based in Dubai and right here in Riyadh. What we're going to talk about today is how psychology plays a very essential role in design. And I'm going to demonstrate this through a couple of examples. The first thing, any designer or anyone which has like a small semblance of creativity says, we are all creatives. But the question I'm going to ask today is that true? Are we just creatives, or are there other dimensions to us as designers? I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. This is one of the basic tenets of psychology. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And you can see in this little pyramid, right? So Buddha sits right up there at self-actualization. So this is the Zen character who has complete contentment and peace in life. How many of you in the audience have complete contentment and peace in your life? Not me, and definitely not anyone in this audience. The base foundation of this pyramid is physiological needs, and this is where architecture and interior design plays such a pivotal role. What do I mean by that? Unless you feel safe and psychologically safe in an environment, you really can't address your other needs. And how does that show up in other spaces? I'm going to show you this. You feel emotionally distressed when you're in a space that doesn't feel good. For example, this hall right here, as wonderfully designed as it is, it's freezing cold. And you compare it to hall number 2, where it feels like a little sauna steam box, okay? That caused me a lot of emotional distress yesterday, and I am a little bit distressed now. I've asked someone to bring me a hot cup of coffee. But here's another example. This is a home that we did in Dubai. And what's interesting is, if you think of basic elements, right? You think of a staircase in a home. Imagine if you didn't have a balustrade. You would put your body at some level of unease, because you're like, oh my God, am I going to fall over these stairs? Like I'm thinking now, I'm not feeling quite as secure as I would if I had that balustrade. Another example is that dining room. Something we do very often in design is create psychologically defensible spaces. Okay, what does that mean? Imagine sitting in an open plan office, your boss sits behind you, looks directly at your screen. That's not a psychologically safe space. But having a barrier, having some sort of a cocoon behind you that defends you is a psychologically defensible space. You do this in education environments, you do this at airports, you do this at homes. Use that as a tactic. So it's all connected to psychology. All of you who are just lurking around on the outside, we have a lot of chairs here, so if you want to grab a seat, just no one's going to bite you. Wait, before I go to the slide, another thing that I'm going to talk to you about today is behavioral psychology. This is how an environment affects your behavior. And there's this fascinating study that was done by a professor in 1953. Anyone, this is just an off chance, anyone in the audience born in 1953? No, you're lying. You look too young, too much Botox. No, lies, all lies. Okay. But if you were born in 1953, you're as young as this study, okay? Behavioral psychology is very new, and it's only been around since 1953. Watch this quick video. Turn up the audio.
So Professor Khaldoon built a rat colony in a tiny space to see how they'd react. And sure enough, rat society broke down as they began attacking each other. Professor Khaldoon was worried that the same would happen to humans in America's 1950s building boom of cheap, high-density housing known as the projects. Sadly, he was right. Many of the projects did become ghettos. Today, we call his research proxemics, a psychology tool that designers here at Index Dubai use all the time.
Index Saudi, sorry. Whoops. Okay. My point is, if you ever look at social housing, right? They have this in the UK, they have it in parts of Europe, they definitely have it in America. There is a very high degree of vandalism. There is a very small degree of care. So when you have a space that's beautifully designed, that has got some thought into it, people will not vandalize it as much, okay? So I'm going to give you 5 theories. We finished Maslow's hierarchy of needs. This is number 2. I only need your attention for 15 minutes. I'm going to go very quickly. Social facilitation theory. What does this mean, and how can it impact your design? Now, research shows that when you are in a space where you're working around other people, it increases your level of productivity. It not only makes you more productive, because as human beings, we're somehow wired to be competitive beings, and I suffer from this greatly. But when you're in this environment, it increases your productivity. And how did they find this out? They found this out from what are they called? Oh my God, what is the word? Anyways, pro athletes. Let's go with pro athletes. Pro cyclists, when they're cycling right next to each other, their performance is so much higher than when they're cycling by themselves and just reading the numbers. So now this is a great way. When you create collaboration spaces in your offices, in your hotels, in your airport, try and have spaces that have agile seating where people can sit together. And again, this will enhance productivity, this will enhance thought process, and also cognitive discussions amongst people. So very important. In education environments, you'll notice we've gone away from this. This is a terrible setting, okay? I don't know who designed it. Marina, you didn't design it, did you? I don't think so. You're too smart. This is a terrible setting, right? This is a sermon. I'm standing here, you're sitting there, we feel disconnected, I'm on an elevated stage. Terrible. If we really wanted to have a good collaborative discussion, I should be down here, I should be walking around, I should be amongst you, so we're at the same level. And we use this very often in education spaces where the furniture is modular, it can be moved around and really encourage collaboration. Now, take 5 seconds while I sip my coffee and read this. So this theory talks about the fact, I know you haven't read it, it's fine. I'm going to summarize it for you, don't worry. It's not an English test. This theory talks about when you are in a higher volume of space, your creativity goes up, it increases by 30%. So a couple of years ago, we moved offices, right? I found this warehouse and it had this gorgeous 7-meter high ceiling. So I'm just showing you a quick video of what it was before. This is a space, little, rundown warehouse in Al Sarkal, and this is my studio today. Why did I do this? This was a huge investment of cost, and you were talking on your previous panel about, does the founder or the CEO have a closed office? Sadly, I don't, and there was an intentional reason to do this. When we designed the space, and I'd read the research, it said that my colleagues are going to be 30% more creative. That's why I decided to make this investment. So our space has this beautiful sample kitchen library. It has collaboration spaces, it has closed and open spaces, but the aim is to increase creativity. Now, do you think it increased creativity? How many of you think my colleagues are now more creative? Any show of hands? They actually are. We've studied this, we've got the research, we've got post-documentary surveys, and they are. So when my neighbor decided to do a retail store, I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this volume again. And this time, I'm going to do a series of staircases. So it kind of takes you on this journey. But whenever I did that, I made sure I had those cocooned, defensible spaces. So just remember, when you're working with large volume, you still need those closed off small spaces where people feel secure. Watch this quick video while I introduce theory number 3. Biophilia. We've all heard about this, right? So the next theory I'm going to talk to you about is called attention restoration theory. All of us now live in an environment where we're overwhelmed. Visually overstimulated, overwhelmed by work, overwhelmed by Instagram, social media, all of that. When you are in a space which is connected to nature, and that doesn't have to be real nature, so I'm not talking about putting a planter everywhere. It could be sinuous shapes and forms. It could be natural textures. We have dogs in our office, right? This is attention restoration theory. It drops your mental fatigue and it rejuvenates you to start thinking again. Now, when you're designing workplaces, I think this is super important because we do have a visually stimulated and overstimulated employee base. This was my first office, right, when I was a startup about 11 years ago. But even then, because I knew how important psychology was, I did manage to get a cork board from Amazon, or was it Alibaba, I can't tell you. But anyways, it was super cheap. And the moss wall, right? And I saw some great stands out here that have moss walls. So you don't have to go all out and put massive olive trees and have dunes within the space, but try and think of natural materials, very important. Just another way that we introduced biophilia in a restaurant project. And again, it's not just about those floral displays, it's also about the curves and the shapes that you're seeing throughout the furniture, throughout the booth seating. Very important to keep it consistent. And sometimes your clients will say, I'm allergic to plants, I'm allergic to artificial plants, I don't like it. So there's a wallpaper, right? There are so many ways we can trick our mind. It's called simulated or illusory response of the mind to nature. So don't discount these things. Take a second to read that. Okay, how many of you are architects or designers in this room? Look at you guys, all wearing black. You should be ashamed of yourself. You know, last time I did this presentation, I actually wore black and I was like, oh my God, what a hypocrite. So today I put on lots of color. But this is the point. As architects, we just think, oh my God, we're so special. We're going to work in a neutral palette. It's all about like being slick. And I was like, is that true? And then I Googled my favorite architects and what do I see? All of them in their profile pictures wearing black. Half the audience is wearing black. There is no winning in this world. But architects are allowed to use other colors in the crayon box too. This is when you know you're a narcissist. Now I'm quoting myself and I'm writing my name down there as well. I'm so special. Right. But what do I mean about color, right? It's not like, I like blue, let me paint this restaurant blue. I like yellow, let's make this office yellow. No, please don't do that. Color affects your psyche and your psychology very, very intensely. So you have to be mindful. So for example, and again, you don't need a degree, you don't need a course in this. Do a little Google search and all of this information is available out there. If not, you can have my presentation and the information is in there. Deep blue signifies trust. Orange signifies energy. Great kind of color to use within your collaboration spaces, in your cafes. Green is peaceful. Put all your volatile employees in a green-based space. I know all my little firecracker divas, I always put them in my green room. Pink is insightful. Pink is also calming. They've done studies where they show that when they changed prisoner uniforms in the US to pink, the crime rate, you know, because jails also have violence and crime, the crime rate reduced. So I always put pink where the finance directors for my clients or the procurement team is sitting because they pay my bills. So I have to make sure that they're in a calm, nice state of mind when they get my bills. Now, orange can be energy, but undersaturated and understated orange can also mean calmness. So it's a nice color to use. Yellow, I mean, how many of you like yellow in the audience? Anyone here likes yellow? It's one of my favorite colors. We're such happy people. Look, your phone's yellow as well. I know, we're happy people. We like yellow. It's a cheerful color, right? So use it sensibly. And I'm just showing you some examples of projects where we've done that. This is a meeting room, energized, in an office that we designed. This is blue. Again, it's a conference room, but it's playful. But it's blue, so it symbolizes trust. Some big decisions about regulation are going to be made here. And don't be afraid to mix colors. So a lot of people just think you have to make a monolithic space. But when you actually understand the color wheel, there are complementary colors, there are colors that go together, and they can have multiple effects as well. So play with that when you're designing. Pink, as I said, is a very peaceful color. We use it very often in maternity rooms, in wellness spaces. Just some examples of how we've used yellow and green within this space. Now, red. Red is like the apex predator of colors. You have to be very careful when you're using this. Very often we'll have banking clients who'll come to us and be like, I want an all red office. And I'll be like, please don't do that. Your employees are going to be in an agitated state of mind all day long. You're going to notice that they're going to have conflict. You're going to notice that when they finish their work at the end of the day, they're going to be agitated and take that home. How many of you have partners that come home that are just in a bad mood all the time? Anyone? Anyone want to raise their hand? Just one? You two, oh God, guys. Okay, but here's my problem. I think they probably work in a red office. So when you're using red, please be mindful. See how we use it in little pops of colors, but we always mute it down or tone it down with a lot of neutrality so that people have some level of semblance when they leave the space. Now, color can also be neutral in its sense, right? Sometimes when, like this coffee shop that we designed, everything is gray on gray, but we add layers into that tile where you see that rust color, which symbolizes the coffee bean, and then we pick it up within the packaging and we pick it up on a small sofa. So don't be afraid to have neutral spaces because they can also be very, very powerful and calming. We talked about black in the beginning. And black is interesting as a color in interior design, right? Part of it has this semblance of mystery, but it also signifies unhappiness. Yes, it's bold and it shows power, but it can also be depressing. So, of these three images that you see on the screen, there is no right answer, guys, because design is subjective. How many of you would like to live in a space like this on a daily basis? Just you. What is going on in your mind right now? I'm worried about you. Very, very worried about you. No, but my point is that if you lived in a space like this every single day, it would wear you down. I think you would go into a state of complete anxiety and depression, okay? So don't do that. But There are projects when we do use black, right? So this is a single man who'd asked us to design his brief to me was, I want a bat cave. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to make your entire house black, but I will give you one complete black bathroom, right? Because that is a place where you unwind, you decompress after a long day. So I can allow you that. But I couldn't. Just morally, it would have been wrong to make his entire office black. So I didn't do it. Now, we're very close to the end, guys. So thank you for keeping up. We only have 10 minutes left. Your 5 senses. When you design, and this is not only related to psychology, this is related to how you experience a space. It's called phenomenology. Make sure you cater to all 5 senses. What does that mean? It's what you hear, it's what you smell, it's what you feel within the space. So I'm just showing you a quick image of how we've done this in this office. Believe it or not, it is a space for adults, but it has a very childlike, playful quality to it. Okay, I really like this quote by Kareem Rashid. I hate everything he does as a designer, and I hate his nail paint, and that's okay to have an opinion, guys. I don't hate him. I'm just telling you about things I don't like. But I love this comment. When he designs, this is how he designs. He imagines himself blindfolded and walks through a space. What a beautiful journey. And if we designed like that, I think spaces would be so much more powerful. Now, technology, okay? I just did a keynote yesterday in that sauna Steambox hall number 2 or 3 or whatever it was, about AI, okay? Don't get sucked into it, because psychologically this can also be quite damaging for people who are another generation. That's me. I'm 40 plus 43 to be precise, okay? I'm from another decade, another generation. When you have technology that's too complicated, it also puts you at unease. So make sure, first of all, you separate gimmicks from what actually works. And secondly, don't have like, look at that crazy guy. I don't even know what he's doing. I don't think he knows what he's doing. So don't do that gimmicky kind of stuff. And when you do introduce technology, maybe it's a smart building system, maybe it's a lighting system, great. Make sure people know how to use it, or it really puts them on the back foot. And don't forget to have analog spaces. As you heard on the panel before, there's different generations at play, there's different people from different kind of cultures and backgrounds, so make sure you cater to all of them so everyone feels psychologically safe in a space. One other thing, a couple of other theories that I'm going to talk to you about are ivory tower theories. This is stuff that academics do, right? So in theory, there's this beautiful concept called fractal geometry. What is fractal? Has anyone heard of fractal geometry? I don't expect you to have. No one. Good. Great. So you like black and you know about fractal geometry. Brilliant. Such an anomaly, this girl. Okay. Fractal geometry means that when you look at a branch, the smallest twig has the same shape as the overall tree. And that's why when we look at stuff like that's in Cambodia, that's Angkor Wat. Why is it so powerful? Why are we so drawn to it? We're drawn to it because of fractal geometry. Because the smallest part of the dome replicates the entire skyline that Angkor Wat creates, right? Very magical. So this is a great way, using fractal geometry, to put people at ease in a space. Repeating pattern, repeating forms puts people at ease. So what do you guys see? Just shout it out. What do you see on the screen here? Okay, everyone's eyes are working. This is good. You see a snake? Excellent. But it could also be a hose pipe, right? In the middle of the night, you're walking and you see this hose and you think, shit, that's a snake. But it's not. It's a hose pipe. What does that show us? That shows us that illusory impacts our mind and our psyche too. How can we use that? We use it in dental clinics. We use it in hospitals. Just simulating being outside actually brings a lot of power to you within your psyche. You have 6 minutes left. I'm going to just show you very quickly what we do as a company. Before we start working, we have an in-house psychologist, right? We always have a briefing process, and we call this the deep customer empathy journey. We take them through this process. Now you might say I like black, you might say I like blue, but I'm going to understand, how do you want to feel in this space? Do you want to feel calm? Do you want to feel strong and powerful? And I work backwards from there. So if any of you are designers out there, first try and understand through your skills of emotional intelligence what your client actually wants. And this is just a quick example of how our survey is. I've stayed within my time and I've given you 5 minutes in case you wanted any questions. If you want to know more, follow us on Design by Roar. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. So, Hinakit Bhai from Design Vibes. My question is, do you believe that good design is an interplay between technology and psychology? What I mean is, if you give an employee the power of choice to select wherever they want to work from and the ease of access of technology, it contributes to the psychological well-being.
100%. Like, have you ever been... Look, have you ever been in a meeting room where you're doing a big pitch and you can't figure out how to connect your laptop to that HDMI cable? I find that so stressful because, you know, the client has given me their time, they're there, and I can't work out the logistics. So technology is super important. But technology that's intuitive and that works is super important, because it could also create unease if it doesn't work. So I think it's just the right balance. I don't think, you know, when people are like, oh, I hate AI, I hate technology, it's not mutually exclusive. It's not this or that. You can have both, but you got to strike the right balance to make it work. Anyone else? Do you have a question?
Thanks for a very interesting overview of the different feelings and the impact of how you design space. Now, I just noticed something interesting. You're always looking at the negative side of things and why we shouldn't, rather than look at the positive side. This is one thing. I have a friend, spent, I don't know, maybe 5 years building a house that cost a lot of money, and he was changing the dimensions and the geometry. You know, he was telling me that he thinks this is a positive energy side and the other one is... You haven't mentioned anything to that, but you did mention...
So you want me to talk about how I feel when people change?
Why are you talking in the negative side of things?
Oh, you know, because I'm a skeptic. I'm a realist, you know. You need some realists for the world to work. But to your point, it's human nature to change your mind. And I think it's completely fine, because design is an iterative process. When you live in a house, it's for the next 20 years. And the process of building a house takes about 2 to 3 years. So obviously, you're not the same person you were 3 years ago. You've got new influences. You've got new input. You're allowed to change your mind. And I don't think... I can see your point if you feel it was negative, but I'm just stating facts. It's all based on evidence-based design.
Yeah, but skeptic is not necessarily a realist.
Probably not, but that's me.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Now, just one thing. Yeah, I've heard about this positive energy, negative space impact. I don't believe in it, but I don't know, does it exist? I mean...
Well, look, I'm not a Vastu or a Feng Shui expert. I went to 8 years of architecture school, so I believe in science, and I believe in flow of energy, but that comes through natural light, it comes through good design, proportions, and scale. So that would be my response to that. Once you design to that, you'd be good. Awesome. Should I release you all now? Any other questions? One more question, last one?
One more question if we have? Yes. Lady here. Go ahead.
Is this going to be dark?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I'm joking. But like regarding the black picture that you showed of all the rooms and stuff, and so I feel like if you have a nice balance between sunlight and all black, then it might not be as dark as like, you know, a person would see it like. And so, especially for a person who doesn't spend a lot of time home, you're traveling. And so I feel like if you have a space that's just black,
Yeah.
it might be positive, because in the end of the day, you're coming home after a long day of work. It's like there's nothing too bright, there's nothing too light. It's just perfect for you in the morning.
Absolutely.
Nice sun.
And you've hit the nail on the head,
Yeah.
right? So that's why we do a needs-based analysis. Now imagine you had pets and children and a partner that lived with you. You might like black, but the other 3 people that coexist with you within that space
Might
don't.
not like it,
Right?
yeah.
So you've hit the nail on the head. Of course you can have a black space. It's about balancing it. Balancing it with biophilia, balancing it with natural light, balancing it with maybe softer shapes so it doesn't impact you as much. Black is a great color. I'm a huge fan. Thank you so
It
much
was a
for
great
paying
discussion.
attention for 20
Thank you
minutes.
so much
Really
for
appreciate
joining
it.
us. And just a quick question. You said designers change mind over years, right? You evolve. What's your favorite color at the moment right now?
What's my favorite color? White.
White.
Yeah.
It's all white.
It used to be purple. My entire wedding was like lavender and deep purple, and I hate purple now.
Okay, Purple. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.